Sheila had never been good at lying, not really. Her excuses had always sounded fragile, stitched together with desperation and arrogance. But what saved her in the past was that nobody expected her to stick around long enough to explain. People either ran from her or fought her. They never asked questions for too long. But this time things were different. She had made herself a place in Deacon's world, a corner of normalcy she pretended to belong in. And yet the cracks showed more each day. Every week she slipped out of the apartment with flimsy reasons that grew thinner and thinner. A phone call she had to take outside. A supply errand that somehow took hours. A meeting with a friend no one ever saw. She always came back smiling, brushing off questions with that hollow laugh. But Deacon wasn't blind. He wasn't a fool. He had fought too hard to rebuild his life to let Sheila Carter drag him back into darkness with secrets she wouldn't share. At first he gave her the benefit of the doubt. He wanted to believe her. He told himself that maybe she was trying to be better, that maybe she was hiding something harmless, something trivial, something personal she wasn't ready to share. But then it happened again and again. Disappearances in the middle of the night. Excuses that didn't make sense. Sometimes she came back with a look in her eyes he had seen before, the look of someone who wasn't just lying, but reliving old patterns. The same Sheila who always had another scheme, another agenda, another hidden weapon. And Deacon couldn't shake the fear that if he didn't find out what she was hiding, it would explode in both their faces. Lee found herself tangled in this too. At the hospital she had noticed strange things: Sheila hovering near restricted areas, Sheila slipping down corridors without permission, Sheila trying to start conversations with people she had no reason to know. When staff asked questions, Sheila deflected, and when those questions circled back to Lee, suddenly she was the one cornered. Lee hated Sheila, had fought tooth and nail to keep her away from Finn, from Steffi, from everyone she cared about. But suddenly she was being forced into awkward corners. People asked, "Are you covering for Sheila? Are you letting her back into the hospital?" And Lee, unable to explain what she didn't even fully understand, had to stammer through half-truths. Was she covering for Sheila? No. But was Sheila manipulating her into silence? Absolutely. Deacon decided to follow her. He waited for one of her sudden errands and trailed her out of the building. Sheila was careful. She doubled back, checked over her shoulder, moved with a paranoia that proved she knew what she was doing. But Deacon had known her long enough to anticipate her tricks. He stayed far enough behind, blending into the crowd, watching every move. Sheila slipped into her car and drove toward the edge of town, weaving through streets until she stopped at an old industrial block near the river. Deacon parked 2 blocks away and moved on foot, his heart pounding as he crouched behind stacks of rusted shipping crates. Sheila wasn't meeting a friend. She wasn't shopping. She wasn't running errands. She walked into a dimly lit building where shadows moved inside, the flicker of neon casting outlines against dirty glass. What Deacon saw through that cracked window stopped him cold. Sheila wasn't alone. She was in the middle of a meeting, speaking in low tones with people he didn't recognize. Her faced men exchanging envelopes, whispering quickly, checking the doors. It wasn't random. It wasn't innocent. This was a network, something organized, something dangerous. Sheila was in the center of it. For years Sheila had been painted as unhinged, reckless, a woman who lashed out in fits of violence and obsession. But this wasn't chaos. This was deliberate. It was business. And if what Deacon was seeing was true, Sheila wasn't just hiding secrets, she was running something far bigger, something that had the power to blow apart every fragile bond she had built. He pressed closer to hear. He caught fragments, deliveries, payments, codes. He saw Sheila taking notes, nodding, exchanging glances that weren't just casual but committed. This wasn't her first meeting. She had been here before. She had been doing this for weeks, maybe months. Deacon's chest tightened. If this came out, if the police got wind, if Finn or Steffi or Lee discovered what Sheila was tied to, it wouldn't just destroy her. It would destroy him. His name was already dirt in the eyes of most people in Los Angeles. He had staked his fragile redemption on convincing others that he was different now. That being with Sheila didn't mean he was part of her chaos. But this was the kind of secret that could burn him to the ground. As he pulled back from the window, his mind raced. Did he confront her now? Expose her? Did he go to Lee and tell her what he'd found? Lee already suspected something, already knew Sheila was dangerous. But if he came forward, it would mean admitting he'd let Sheila drag him into the shadows again. And if Sheila found out he was following her, there would be no coming back. Inside, Sheila laughed with her associates, slipping the envelopes into her purse before shaking hands. Deacon's stomach turned. She was comfortable here. Too comfortable. That was the worst part. This wasn't desperation. This was power. This was control. And if he didn't stop her, if he didn't force the truth out into the light, she would bury them both under her schemes. When she finally left the building, Deacon stayed hidden, watching her stride back to her car with the calm confidence of someone who believed she had the upper hand. And maybe she did. But what Sheila didn't know was that Deacon had seen everything. He knew her secret now, and he knew that whatever she was running, it was about to unravel. Back at the hospital, Lee got a call from Deacon. His voice was sharp, tense, filled with something she hadn't heard from him in a long time. Fear. I found her, Lee. And you're right. She's hiding something. Something big. If we don't act now, it's all going to blow up. And when it does, none of us will be safe. Lee froze at his words, the weight of what they meant settling on her like ice. For months she had been cornered, accused, doubted. Now the truth was clawing its way into the open. Sheila Carter wasn't just a threat to Finn or Steffi anymore. She was a threat to everyone. And in Los Angeles, secrets never stayed buried. Sheila's network was about to crack wide open, and when it did, the fallout would shake every family, every alliance, every fragile truce the city had managed to hold together. The question was no longer whether Sheila would be exposed. The question was how much destruction she would unleash before the truth finally crushed her. The storm inside the Spencer mansion was nothing compared to the storm tearing through the people gathered there. The whispers about Luna's paternity, the hushed speculation that had once seemed to die down, had returned stronger, sharper, and more destructive than ever. The question of Luna's bloodline had haunted her since she entered the Forrester and Spencer orbit. But now it wasn't just idle gossip, it was a war, one dragging Poppy, Bill, and even Finn into the center of a scandal no one could control. It began with the latest DNA test, the one that was supposed to settle everything once and for all. The test had been demanded after inconsistencies started piling up, after Finn himself began pressing questions, after Bill insisted on clarity. Poppy had promised there was nothing to worry about, but when the results came back and whispers spread that the findings might have been tampered with, suspicion erupted like wildfire. Who could manipulate a DNA lab? Who had the motive, the access, the power? Everyone had their theories, and no one trusted anyone. Bill's fury was immediate and impossible to contain. He stormed into Poppy's presence, his voice thundering through the house. Are you playing me, Poppy? Are you using me like some pawn in whatever game you're running? If Luna isn't who you say she is, I need to know right now. Poppy's hands shook, her face pale, but she shook her head fiercely. I haven't lied about her. I haven't. She's mine, Bill. She's my daughter. And everything I've done has been to protect her. But her denial only fueled his rage. Bill slammed his fist on the table. Then explain why a DNA test says one thing, and now suddenly everyone claims it's compromised. Who's pulling the strings here? Because I swear, if you or anyone else thinks they can manipulate me or my family, they'll regret it. Finn entered at the peak of Bill's anger, his own frustration boiling. For months he had felt this strange pull of connection to Luna, and with every new test, every conflicting result, he felt more and more like his life was being rewritten against his will. He turned on Poppy with a glare that cut deep. You need to stop dodging the truth. If Luna is my sister, I have a right to know. If she isn't, then stop dragging me into this mess. But this endless cycle of half answers and shady lab results to stop. The room grew thick with tension. Every glance, another accusation. Luna stood frozen in the corner, her entire world unraveling in front of her. The girl who had just wanted to belong, who had just wanted to know who she truly was now being ripped apart by the very people she thought might bring her clarity. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I just want the truth." But the truth wasn't simple. The whispers about tampered DNA results spread beyond the mansion. Questions arose about who had access to the lab. Fingers pointed toward Poppy, toward Bill, even toward Finn. But then a darker possibility emerged that someone outside the family, someone with an interest in keeping the truth hidden, was pulling the strings. Forrester Creations and Spencer Publications had enemies, rivals, people with influence and money who could easily slip into the shadows of a laboratory and rewrite results. Bill was relentless, pushing Poppy harder. "If you're hiding something, if there's even one part of Luna's story you haven't told me, it ends tonight." "No more secrets." Poppy shook her head again, tears slipping down her cheeks. She had spent years protecting her daughter, weaving a life for her away from scandal, away from the men who could tear them apart. But now every shield she had built was collapsing. Every lie she had whispered into silence was demanding to be heard. The confrontation reached its breaking point when Finn pressed her harder than anyone else. "You say you're her mother. You say you did everything to protect her. But from what? From who? What are you not saying, Poppy?" And then, finally, the dam broke. Poppy's voice cracked as she blurted out the truth. A detail from her past that she had never shared with anyone, not even Luna. "Because I don't know who her father is." The words silenced the room instantly, a bomb detonating in the heart of every person present. Bill froze. Finn's face went pale. Luna gasped, shaking as the floor seemed to disappear beneath her. Poppy collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands, her sobs shaking her body. "I was young. I was reckless. I made mistakes. And when I found out I was pregnant, I didn't know which of them was her father. I thought I could keep it buried. I thought it wouldn't matter if I just raised her on my own. But then she grew up, and she wanted answers, and I wanted to give her the life she deserved. I wanted her to be proud of who she was, not haunted by my past." Bill's fury shifted into disbelief. "So all this time, all this fighting, all these tests, you never even knew the truth yourself?" Poppy nodded miserably. "I tried to believe. I tried to convince myself. But when the results kept changing, when people started digging, I knew it was only a matter of time before everything came out. And now it has." Finn staggered back, his chest heaving. "So it could be anyone. It could be Bill. It could be someone else entirely. And you've let us all tear each other apart for months because you were too afraid to admit the truth." The fallout was instant and devastating. Luna broke down, her heart shattering as the mother she trusted revealed the one secret that unraveled everything. She screamed at Poppy, "You should have told me. You should have told me years ago. You let me build my life on lies." She ran from the room, sobbing, leaving Bill and Finn glaring down at Poppy, both men furious and betrayed. Bill's voice was like a knife. "You used me. You used my name, my power, my family, all while you didn't even know the truth yourself. You think I'll ever forgive you for that?" Finn's anger was quieter, but no less cutting. "You dragged me into this mess. You made me question everything about my family, my life, my identity. And all along you could have ended this with one truth. You didn't know. You've destroyed everything, Poppy." Poppy sobbed harder, but there was no sympathy left in the room. She had fought for years to protect Luna, but her silence, her fear, and her lies had only created more destruction. The revelation changed everything. The DNA test no longer mattered. The question wasn't about tampered labs or hidden results. The truth was that Luna's father was unknown, her bloodline a mystery tangled in Poppy's past. For Bill, it was humiliation. For Finn, it was betrayal. For Luna, it was devastation. And for Poppy, it was the collapse of the life she had tried so hard to hold together. The entire balance of power shifted with that confession, because now the truth wasn't in science, wasn't in results, it was in a past Poppy could no longer hide. The war over Luna's bloodline wasn't over. It had only entered a new stage, one filled with more questions than answers. Who was the father? Who had tampered with the tests, and why? Who stood to gain by keeping Luna's identity buried? And how far would Bill, Finn, and even Luna herself go to uncover the truth now that Poppy had finally admitted the one thing she had always feared most? The game had changed. The lines were redrawn. And the fallout from Poppy's confession promised to tear open wounds deeper than anyone had imagined.